then they stand. It's like the Devas. Whereas in Thailand, standing is disrespectful. After paying respect to a monk, they have to sit lower than the monk. So different country, different custom. Then one Devata, standing to one side, recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. There are among humans no permanent sensual pleasures. Here there are just desirable things. When a person is bound to these, heedless in their midst, from death's realm he does not reach the state of no more coming back. One moment, I just explain a bit. Here is saying human sensual pleasures are not permanent. And if a human is bound to these sensual pleasures, then he does not get out of death's realm, samsara, the cycle of births and deaths. And another Devata said, misery is born of desire, suffering is born of desire. By the removal of desire, misery is removed. By the removal of misery, suffering is removed. Then the Buddha said, they are not sense pleasures, the world's pretty things. Man's sensuality is the intention of lust. The pretty things remain as they are in the world, but the wise remove the desire for them. One should discard anger, cast off conceit, transcend all the fetters. No sufferings torment one who has nothing, who does not adhere to name and form. He abandoned reckoning, did not assume conceit. He cut off craving here for name and form. Though Devas and humans search for him, here and beyond, in the heavens and all abodes, they do not find the one whose knots are cut, the one untroubled, free of longing. If Devas and humans have not seen the one thus one moment, stop here. So here the Buddha is saying, the world's pretty things are not sense pleasures. Man's sensuality is the intention of lust. The pretty things remain as they are in the world, but the wise remove the desire for them. So here the Buddha is saying that pretty things in the world, desirable things in the world are not sense pleasures. It is our mind. It is our mind because of lust. Then we, when we indulge, we perceive sensual pleasures. So the thing is not that we have to get rid of the attractive things in the world. What we have to get rid of is the desire inside us, the unwholesome desire inside us. So there is an interesting case in the Vinaya books. When a monk, there was one monk at one time, he was very troubled by sensual desires. His lust was so strong, he was very agitated. And he was so agitated, he took the knife and cut off his private part. So when this news came to the Buddha said that foolish fellow, he cut off one thing when he should cut off another. So he cut off the wrong thing. It is not the things in the world that are the problem. It is our mind that is the problem. That is why when we practice the holy path, we go back into our mind, go back to the source of all the problem is inside us. So somebody asks, if Devas and humans have not seen the one thus liberated here and beyond, are they to be praised who venerate him, the best of men, faring for the good of humans? And the Buddha said, those monks too become worthy of praise, who venerate him, the one thus liberated. But having known Dhamma and abandoned doubt, those monks become even surmounters of ties. So here someone asked, maybe another Devata or a monk, those who venerate the enlightened one, are they to be praised? And then the Buddha said, if those monks, they venerate the enlightened being, then they also are worthy of praise. But if a monk understands the Dhamma, abandons doubt, then they can even surmount ties. Ties here, Sangha, refers to lust, hatred, delusion, conceit and views. So if a person understands the Dhamma and practices, then he can cut off lust, hatred, delusion, conceit and views himself. At 1.35. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Then when the night had advanced, a number of fault-finding Devatas of stunning beauty, illuminating the entire Jeta's Grove, approached the Blessed One and stood in the air. Then one Devata, standing in the air, recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. If one shows oneself in one way, while actually being otherwise, what one enjoys is obtained by theft, like the gains of a cheating gambler. Then another Devata said, one should speak as one would act. Don't speak as one wouldn't act. The wise clearly discern the person who does not practice what he preaches. Let's stop here for a moment. Here these Devatas are called fault-finding Devatas because they like to find fault with others. A lot of people are like that. Always look at other people's fault, never look at their own fault. So here they are hinting that the Buddha, because they are talking to the Buddha, they are hinting that the Buddha, he says one thing and behaves in another way. They do not understand, even though they have psychic power, they did not understand that the Buddha was a holy person, an enlightened person. So they say if a person behaves in one way and show off himself in another way, what he enjoys is obtained by theft. What he means, if a monk begs for his food and does not behave properly, then he's like a cheat. He's not worthy of the alms food that he gets. And then the Buddha said, not by mere speech, nor solely by listening, can one advance on this firm path of practice, by which the wise ones, the meditators, are released from the bondage of Mara. Truly, the wise do not pretend, for they have understood the way of the world. By final knowledge, the wise are quenched. They have crossed over attachment to the world. Then those Devatas, having alighted on the earth, prostrated themselves with their heads at the Blessed One's feet and said to the Blessed One, a transgression overcame us, Venerable Sir, being so foolish, so stupid, so unskillful, that we imagined we could assail the Blessed One. Let the Blessed One pardon us for our transgression, seen as such, for the sake of restraint in the future. So when the Buddha told them plainly that he has crossed over the world to the other side, he does not pretend, then they realize that the Buddha was a holy person. Then they paid respect to the Buddha and asked for forgiveness. Then the sutta continues. Then the Blessed One displayed a smile. Those Devatas, finding fault to an even greater extent, then rose up into the air. One Devata recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. If one does not grant pardon to those who confess transgression, angry at heart, intent on hate, one strongly harbors enmity. Stop here for a moment. So when the Buddha smiled, they misunderstood. They thought the Buddha was playing a fool with them, lying to them. So they got even more angry. They flew up into the air, and one of them said these verses that if a person confesses and the other person does not pardon him, then he has a lot of hate, a lot of anger. Then the Buddha said, if there was no transgression, if here there was no going astray, and if enmities were appeased, then one would be faultless here. And then the Devata said, for whom are there no transgressions? For whom is there no going astray? Who has not fallen into confusion? And who is the wise one, ever mindful? Stop here for a moment. So the Buddha here is saying, if there is no wrongdoing, and there is no hatred, then there is no fault here. And then this Devata said, who does not do anything wrong? And where can you find the wise one, ever mindful one? Then the Buddha said, the Tathagata, the enlightened one, full of compassion for all beings. For him there are no transgressions. For him there is no going astray. He has not fallen into confusion. He is the wise one, ever mindful. If one does not grant pardon to those who confess transgression, angry at heart, intent on hate, one strongly harbors enmity. In that enmity I do not delight. Thus I pardon your transgression. So the Buddha is telling them that he is the enlightened one, and he is full of compassion, and does not do anything wrong, and that if somebody confesses, then we should pardon that person, and so there is no hatred, no anger. So the Buddha directly told them that he pardons their wrongdoing. Then they were satisfied. Now we continue, Sutta 1.36. By the way, I forgot to mention, last night when I talked on the suttas, I did not skip any sutta. So I went through 19 suttas, but then I realized if I were to read every sutta, 3 months, it definitely cannot finish. 1 year also may not finish. So I think I have to be selective. Those that are not so interesting, I won't read. Or it's like a repetition, I won't read. So I will only read the more interesting suttas. Even that also is many, a lot. Out of 2,000, how many we can read within 3 months, I don't know. But I think we have to try to finish within 3 months, because after the Vasa, I don't think there will be time and there will be people. So 1.36. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatha Pindika's park. Then when the night had advanced, a number of Devatas belonging to the Satulapa host of stunning beauty, illuminating the entire Jeta's Grove, approached the Blessed One. Having approached, they paid homage to the Blessed One and stood to one side. Then one Devata, standing to one side, recited this verse in the presence of the Blessed One. Faith is a person's partner. If lack of faith does not persist, fame and renown thereby come to him, and he goes to heaven on leaving the body. Then another Devata recited these verses in the presence of the Blessed One. One should discard anger, cast off conceit, transcend all the fetters. No ties torment one who has nothing, who does not adhere to name and form. You see the different devas, they say different things, and quite often you see sometimes they praise certain qualities, and it's quite likely they cultivated those qualities, and so they were born in heaven. And because of that, they were so happy that they cultivated those particular qualities, so they praise, encourage people to do the same thing. For example, the first one, he says faith is very important. So probably he had a lot of faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and so he was reborn in heaven. Another one says they should cut off anger. And there are some they praise doing charity. Because of doing charity, they were born in heaven. Then the third one said, foolish people devoid of wisdom devote themselves to negligence, but the wise man guards diligence as his foremost treasure. Do not yield to negligence. Don't be intimate with sensual delight, for the diligent ones meditating attain supreme happiness. So here, this the third Deva's sayings are quite interesting. Foolish people devoid of wisdom devote themselves to negligence, but the wise man guards diligence as his foremost treasure. Diligence